Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today we have a busy show to share and talk about. As this is a Christian news show, and I want to get into the Word of God, but I want to give you a quick hassle of what we're going to do. And I say a hassle because we're going to talk about Islam and hatred. And hatred is vile, it's disgusting. And don't feel bad if you want to take a shower after learning what I'm going to share with you today. Everything I'm going to share with you is documented, it's proven, but again, it's horrible. So let's take a look at the Word of God. Today, I'm starting with Matthew 17, verses 1 to 2. And I have to tell you, when I read this week, I caught something I've never caught before. I didn't expect to see this. So I guess it blew my mind. I learned something I've never learned before, which is kind of cool. This is one of the things I love about reading scripture. Matthew 17, verses 1 to 2, it says, "And after 6 days, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John, his brother, and brings them up into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light." Well, this is the telling of the transfiguration of Jesus. J. Vernon McGee calls the transfiguration a marvelous word. He substitutes the word metamorphosis because he believes this is the showing of the perfect humanity of Christ. And he says it's not a display of his deity. I agree with him. This is the display of humanity and perfection. This transfiguration was about the changes seen in Jesus. So what changes did they see? Well, his face shone as the sun, and his clothing became white as a light. J. Vernon McGee proposes that Adam and Eve looked this way when they were first made until the day they sinned. They had no knowledge of their being naked, he says, partly because they were clothed in light. This would be man without the influence of sin, man without the fall. If we stop here stop going into, we don't read further on, we separate the things that happened after Jesus was transfigured. So Matthew is a gospel that continually shows the deed of Christ. He is the Messiah, the promised one. Jesus could not be the Messiah unless he was holy man and holy God. So here we have the display of holy man. This is one of the things I love about Matthew. He just continually shows the deity of Christ. It is exciting. Now, this is the idea also here is that he shows him as holy man. Why? Because he is without sin. The perfect man. Jesus is seen, again, think about that. The Lamb without blemish, without spot, to purchase our salvation, the sacrifice for our sins. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you. We thank you for being there for us, for loving us in ways that we can never understand. You loved us even when we were still in sin. Lord, we ask that you would watch over us. And Lord, we pray for those who have yet to learn who you are. We ask, Lord, that even those watching this show, Lord, if they're followers of Islam or something else, Lord, that they would find a way to you. In your name, Lord Jesus, amen. Wow. Now, today I've put together something I'll admit, I don't like talking about hatred. It's very difficult for me. I grew up in a family where love was extremely important. How important, I can't imagine my world without it. It's my father's still around, and we never leave each other without saying, I love you. That's a tradition I've passed down to my children. I mean, when my son and I see each other, it's I love you before we leave. And I don't want them to ever question that. And, I know a lot of families that's normal with. I grew up in a very English family, and that was something, I say English, that's the traditions for my family came from England 300 years. Well, wow. 1600s. We're at 400 years ago now. 400 years ago, my family came here. And I think about that. The English homes, the Northern European homes, we don't express our emotions normally. But how important is it to share your love with your children? And that's what this is. That's what a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is opposed in Islam. So, going to share this screen. I'm doing this PowerPoint, and I'll show you a lot of things that are just what I consider shocking and oppositional to reality. So this is about Islam and hatred. And I chose this topic because it is endlessly in the news this week. Nobody will say it. They're afraid to say it. Your regular news stations are afraid because they're told Islam means peace. Sorry, that word means submission. But, yeah, they can't tell you the truth. So let's take a look at Allah, this Allah who hates. What does he say in Surah 385? And whoever desires any other religion except Islam, so it, which is any other religion, will not be accepted from him. And in the hereafter, he will be of the losers. So he considers anybody who's not of Islam a loser. Okay. What does that say? Does he have any love to those who do not follow him? Absolutely not. That's something to think about. Why would anybody decide to follow a guy that considers them a loser? Something to think about. Then we go to Surah 49:29. I have Muhammad is Allah's messenger, and those who are with him are severe against the infidels, but full of tenderness among themselves. So they can love each other, but they must hate and must act horribly towards those who are not with them. That's quite a statement. And this is what it says about themselves. You see them kneeling, worshiping, and seeking bounty from Allah and pleasure. They're talking about themselves. Their marks are on their faces from the traces of the worship. So if they bang their heads hard enough on the ground, they get these nice marks of worship. And when I started to ask questions for my friends who were Muslims about hatred, this mark was actually very important to them. It said, we are holy. We are standing up for what we believe in Islam by, we do this every day. We bang our heads on the ground and we get this mark. This is a mark of holiness. And I look at it like, no, that's a mark of doing something repetitively that damages yourself. And again, this is a symbol of, I look at it as hate because what they're saying during those prayers. Just read Surah 1. That's enough to tell you about hate. I'm a Protestant believer. You're going to have me laughing. Thank you. All right. Allah hates those who do not submit to him. Okay. Those who believe fight in the way of Allah, and those who disbelieve fight in the way of Satan. Fight, therefore, against the friends of the Satan. Surely the strategy of the Shaitan is weak. That's Surah 476. Then as to those who disbelieve, I will chastise them with severe chastisement in this world and the hereafter, and they shall have no helpers. And as to those who believe in good deeds, he will pay them fully their rewards. And Allah does not love the unjust. That's Surahs 356 to 57. My question to everybody: why serve or why submit to someone who doesn't love you? Why become a follower of Islam if he won't love you where you're at? He doesn't set an example. We're supposed to love our children regardless. We do. But in this example that Allah sets, he's teaching his followers that all love is conditional. This is a scary thing. If all love is conditional, then there is a lot of hate. Again, he hates those who, he's going to fight against those who disbelieve. This is hate. And we look at Surah 22, 39 to 41. Permission is given to those who engage in war because they were wronged. Now, I'm pointing out that this surah came from Mecca. For those who are Meccan Muslims and think there is no violence in Allah and Muhammad before then, think about this. It says, permission is given to those who engage in war because they were wronged, and surely Allah is capable of helping them. Allah ordained war to prevent the ungodly from destroying all godly things. Those who have been driven from their homes unjustly, except they said, "Oh, our Lord is Allah," and were it not that Allah had repelled some people by others, cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques in which the name of Allah is ever remembered, would surely have been destroyed. And indeed, Allah will help those who help him. Surely Allah is strong, dear. Those who, if we establish them on the earth, performed the prayer and brought the legal alms and commanded what is right and forbade them from evil, and to Allah and the end of the affairs. So, if you pay attention to Islam, they can't survive without the Sunnah. So they have the Quran and the Sunnah, which is the Hadiths and the Sirahs. So let's take a look at the Sirah al-Rasul. Sirah al-Rasul. So we have this passage. The apostle had not been given permission to fight or allowed to shed blood before the second Aqaba. He had simply been ordered to call men to God and to endure insult and forgive the ignorant. When they are in the ascendant, they will establish prayer, pay the poor tax, and enjoin kindness and forbid iniquity. Okay, that again forbids sin. The prophet and his companions, all of them. Then God sent down to him, fight them so that there be no more seduction, i.e. means, for example, until no believer is seduced from his religion. And the religion is God's, or I would say Allah's. I don't like this translation when they do this. Until Allah alone is worshipped. So they're supposed to fight us until Allah alone is worshipped. This is from the Sirah. This is hate. This is devaluing of human life. And if you don't devalue human life, you can't go out to war and win. And this is, unfortunately, this is something that we sometimes do with our military. We try to devalue human life for the people who are doing the fighting. I don't believe our military does that. I could be wrong. Eric, can you comment on that?
No, well, let me just put it this way. When you're in basic training, I was aging myself, we used to talk about tearing the Ayatollah's lungs out and using for balloons and killing a commie, but it wasn't where you would devalue or dehumanize somebody or take away their humanity. It was always about ideology. It wasn't about saying that these people are just scum sucking dogs and they deserve to die, every single last one. It didn't get to that. The rhetoric doesn't approach that, but it does go after ideologies like communism, like taking 52 American hostages from our embassy for 444 days. Yes, stuff like that.
Yeah. This is the stuff that gets me. I mean, I'm looking at this. I mean, if their concept of God is willing to diss all of humanity except for those who follow him, that's a devaluing. And I think that is different. And if you read the Quran, it constantly says that Allah does not guide those who do not follow him. So Allah has no one else to blame but himself for not being followed. I always find that humorous. How can that, it sounds to me kind of humorous. How can you have a God that's so much like this? So one of the reasons why I bring this up is this big thing that's been going on with India. the chief minister of West Bengal, has now called for jihad against the BJP. And she's actually picked a day. Now, this is scary to me. She has picked a day for jihad in India. July 21st, the day of jihad. That is actually, let's see, what day would that be? I'm just curious. Going down, let's see if I can do this and look down. The 21st is a Thursday. I hope to God I am not reporting on July 21st about a day of jihad in India. And under the rules of jihad, there is no salvation or jizya for the Hindus. This is one of the reasons why the Hindus have a great hatred. Oh, I think we just lost Connie again. I just don't want to see that. The violence that would be, it would just be beyond belief. I think this woman.
Hey, Paul, I just want to say I was in a clubhouse room yesterday with a couple couple Christian brothers from India, and they were talking about this very same thing that you're speaking about, and the reason why they're well, I don't really understand why they're complaining about how they're being treated in India. Now, keep in mind, India was partitioned off in, what was it, 1947 or somewhere around there, where 30% of the land was given to Muslims.
Yes.
Muslim only. Hindus were not allowed to live in Pakistan and Bangladesh. It was only Muslims, only Muslim areas. However, there was a certain percentage, 10% of the population at that time was Muslim. 35 million people were Muslim in India at this time. That population has ballooned to over 300 million in India today. And this is what's really striking. In order to form a government or a constitution, special provisions were given to Muslims in India, not Pakistan, not Bangladesh, in India, a Hindi country, where a Muslim man could marry 4 wives, where mosques would be subsidized. People taking the Hajj would be subsidized by the country of India. Think about that. The country itself, taxpayer money, is subsidizing Muslims who are in the minority in the country to go on their Hajj to Mecca. All of these, they are given, in other words, they are given preferential treatment, even though India is supposed to be the world's largest democracy. And being the world's largest democracy, in the Constitution itself, that you cannot give people preferential treatment based on race, color, creed, religion, or anything like that. But yet Muslims are given preferential treatment in India, and it's fast approaching a rate where they are going to overcome or overtake the Hindu population there and become a majority. And we know exactly what happens every time you get a Muslim majority in a country. What happens to the rights of the minority? They're trampled on. And so
once they hit that 30%, it's between 20 and 30%.
Yeah, the guy knew the numbers because he was citing those numbers off.
Yeah, it's actually closer to 27%. When the jihad begins, and it's a very, very, again, the violence is
213 million is how, let's see, 213 million, and it's at 15% of its population.
Yeah, they have maybe 10% more to go.
Yeah,
if they achieve that, then they will feel that they can.
Well, the reason why they're growing faster is it's not because they're converting Hindus to Islam. It's because you have 4 wives. If you have 4 wives, that means that you have 4 women that are going to bear approximately the same amount of children as one man and a woman would if they were Hindu. So there's no way you're going to be able to keep up with.
You got to add in one more thing. They are kidnapping the Christian and the Hindu girls and forcibly converting them to Islam and forcibly marrying them.
Yeah.
Now, these girls don't have the choice. They are threatened with having their parents or sisters or brothers killed should they fight against this. There's tons of records on this. Pakistan actually has laws against this, but it happens every day in Pakistan. India has laws against this, but again, it happens so often that it's not even, unfortunately, it's not really newsworthy unless the child somehow is getting back. And that's where it starts to make the news, it makes the news because somebody's made a big stink. It happens so often in Islamic countries that it's not newsworthy to them. That's a sad statement. And this is hatred. I mean, this is the idea of stealing and kidnapping. Now, these are not teenage girls. We're not talking about all 16-year-olds to 20-year-olds. We're not talking about that. We're talking about kids as young as 6. Yeah.
It's religious bigotry is what, and
Yes.
that's what Islam is. You are a real. I'm going to say it. If you are a practicing Quran believing Muslim, you are a religious bigot, and it's not your fault. It is the fault of that 7th century self-described prophet Muhammad, because in 98:6, in chapter 98, verse 6 of the Quran, it says that Christians and Jews are the worst of creatures, and our destination is the hellfire. So when you call somebody, because of the religious affiliation, the worst of creatures, what you are a religious bigot. I don't say Muslims are the worst of creatures. I believe their false prophet is probably borderline on the worst of a human being ever living, or ever that had lived. That may be true, but I don't believe that they are the worst of creatures simply because of the religious affiliation.
We
But if you're a
speak about the
practicing Muslim, you believe
ideology.
that, though.
Yeah, you and I, we always talk about the ideology, and it is the faith structure. We are talking about the faith structure. If you really believe that Islam is the best of things for you, I think you have some mental health issues. I want to read that, Surah 98:6. It says, "Surely those who became infidels from the people of the book and the polytheists will abide in the fire of hell forever. Those are the worst of creatures." Again, we're not humans. This is the dehumanizing part of Islam. So Islam dehumanizes everybody but the followers of Islam, the submitters to Sharia, and to submitters to Allah. That's what Islam is. I mean, a Muslim is someone who submits. That's the translation. And unless you understand these things, this is where the hatred it thrives. It's incredibly sick. Now, with all this happening, let's see if I can get there. I saw this. I'm going to blow this up here if I can, because I saw this on Memory today, and I was like, wow. So again, Islam versus everyone else. You can go to memory.org and you can see this. There's a video, a transcript in which is given below, shows the two men. These guys, and I thought I had both of their faces there. I apologize. You'll see them in a minute. Muhammad Riaz Akhtar and Ghas Muhammad in the tailor shop. The tailor, Kanaya Lal, who had previously been arrested over blasphemy-related issues, had been facing threats to his life from radical Muslims, takes measures of one of the men while the other films before the two overpower the tailor. Though the second man drops the camera, presumably to assist in the killing, screams can be heard, and the media reported the men beheaded the tailor. The two men, then brandishing a bloody knife, admit and gloat over the beheading on video. They give their names and threaten to kill the prime minister, Nupur Sharma, and call on Muslims to kill blasphemers. Is India already at that percentage? I think they're still a little bit low. They'll get wiped out if it comes down to it. And I think they're not ready for that. This article continues. The two men have since been arrested along with 3 others. Protests against the beheading have broken out in Udaipur, and the government has imposed a curfew in parts of the city. Media are reporting that the killers are connected to a Pakistan-based group, Dawat-e-Islami, and that one of the 2 men visited Karachi in 2014. An Indian Ministry of Home Affairs spokesman wrote on Twitter that MHA has directed a National Investigation Agency, which is the primary counterterrorism organization in India, to take over the case, and said the involvement of any organization and international links will be thoroughly investigated. Now, these are the 2 guys who killed the tailor and threatened the prime minister. This is scary stuff. When the way I'm looking at this is really scary stuff. Again, this is such hatred that they feel that they are empowered to go do this and then do a video of it because they don't think anything will happen to them. In Pakistan, the truth is they might be thought of as heroes. But in India, they're the dogs. And that's my best way to put it. Any thoughts, anybody?
Look at the guy on the right there. This is the typical way that they wear their beards in India and in that region. And the reason why is because of the British colonialism. During the time that England colonized India, they would not allow men to grow beards, but they would allow them to have mustaches. So after England lost its power there, they started growing beards and purposely shaved their mustaches off just to show a defiance against Western life, Western thinking. And a lot of times you'll see I'm not going to try to guess motivations, but a lot of times you will see this amongst your more radical, hardened jihadis.
Yes, definitely. I mean, again, the beards, this is one of the things you'll notice, and when you're looking at Sharia compliance, you notice the beard is not trimmed. And when you start to see that, this is where when I've talked to policemen, how do you know someone's more Sharia compliant? And I'll say, look at, are they wearing those pants that look like, they have a word for those pants that kids wear. I can't think of it. They're like, I think of sports type wear, but there's a jumper type. They have the elastic down on the bottom of them. And if you're wearing pants, if a guy is wearing pants where his ankles can be seen, then we're talking about more Sharia compliant. And you could see this in the stores where in my town, in my city, there was one particular store where there was everybody coming in that wasn't non-Muslim was coming in were primarily dressed in Sharia type clothing. And I says, this is a store. I said this to a cop. I says, this is a store to watch. A little while later, there was a notice that came out that certain stores had been caught and were being watched by, and that particular store was one of them. And, I kind of felt justified. It was a few years later, but yeah. All right, so let's go on to this next piece. 5 bomb threats over Islamic trial. Now, this one, I sat there looking at this like, okay, so this guy gets caught. And this is from Cronin Zetong. Now, I'll throw the link in the chat room so everybody can get this. And here we go. This particular link, I thought it was, I set my Google to translate almost everything to English. So I say Google because you go to translate.google, and after you translate so many, they just automatically do it for you, which is one of the only reasons I like Google. Other than that, I'd rather do without it. I'd rather be without it. I'm sure another company can do this. 5 bomb threats over, it says Islamist trial. I'm going to say Islamic alarm in Austria. There were bomb threats in Vienna, St. Pölten, and Graz on Monday. According to information from the Krone, it should have been coordinated action to start a process against a Viennese hate preacher. The bomb threats were sent by email from an anonymous Gmail address to the courts, as well to the Jewish community in the Vienna City Council, an apparently coordinated action by an Islamic cell. The hearing against a preacher in Graz was interrupted. The hall cleared and searched by a special team. Similar scenes took place in St. Polten. The first searches of the affected buildings were negative. Various police security measures were still in place, according to the emergency services. 5 threats were confirmed. School departments were also affected. So they did everything to throw everything into chaos because they're going to put this hate preacher, this preacher of hatred, and this is, again, what are we talking about? Islam and hatred. They're going to put this guy in jail for preaching hatred and preaching death. So here's one of the things that this is about. It says the Krone received threatening letters. The letters were written in broken German, addressing the Russian war against Ukraine for the outbreak. They are killing our brothers in Chechnya, and this is the quotes. But open anti-Semitism was also expressed. Death to all Jews and infidels. Oh. So guess what? That includes every single one of us who is not Muslim. Yeah. So this is the hate preacher who's being endorsed by hate. And, you hear these things, you sit there and go, hey, wait a minute. Did you not understand why the guy's in jail? And then, of course, we can't ignore our own hate preachers. Who do we have?
When they do that, when they say death to the infidels, death to the Jews, I mean, it's almost childlike. Yes. It's like, all praise be to Allah and the ayatollah, death to the Jews. And we praise you for giving us that death to the Jews. We condemn them. And it's just a constant mantra to wish death and destruction on somebody other than themselves. What kind of religion, if you think about that for just a second, how many religions in the world where the adherents constantly wish death and destruction on people of other religions?
I only know of Islam doing that. I have never I've heard of one other at one point, but I don't think I don't think it was wished on. I think it was wished against a bad government. And that would have been Hindus, who are setting themselves on fire, or Buddhists who are setting themselves on fire to protest. But I've never heard it against the whole world, besides from Islam.
Well, according to the transphobic imam, when he was in his interaction with our dear friend and brother Clifford, he said that Islam is the only religion that does not condemn other groups to hell. They don't condemn Christians or Hindus or Jews or anyone to hell. It's the only religion in the world that doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're gonna like this. When I have a section on homosexuality coming up, so yeah. Let me share this piece from our local hate preacher congresswoman. So I'm going to put that out to the chat. Representative Rashida Tlaib. Now, I love Daniel Greenfield, so if you ever get a chance to support his work, please do. Representative Rashida Tlaib's favorite BDS group mourns an ISIS terrorist. What does that say about this congresswoman? Does this woman hate America? Does she hate you if she's following Islam? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes. When Bara Lalu, an Islamic terrorist, was recently buried, he was draped in what the Agence France Presse and misleadingly described as a flag showing the seal believed to have been used by Islam's Prophet Muhammad. The wire service neglected to mention it was more specifically the ISIS flag. The Associated Press, as documented by camera, distributed photos of the burial while neglecting to describe the ISIS flag. Along with burying a terrorist, they buried the letter. The growing presence of ISIS in Israel and its overlap with the established Islamic terror groups like the PLO and Hamas has forced the media into new extremes of evasiveness. Former PLO official Hanan Ashrawi accused Israel of being extrajudicial assassination. PLO's foreign ministry responded to the shooting of the ISIS terrorist by calling it a hideous crime. It falsely accused Israel of war crimes against defenseless Palestinian citizens. Wafa, the PLO's news agency, charged Israel with cold-blooded murder in which, according to the terrorist outlet, the ISIS terrorists and the comrades were ambushed and shot dead in cold blood. Wait a minute. Didn't they just describe them as terrorists? They're not. I mean, if they're out there trying to kill you, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying that Israel just came up and did that, but if they're out there trying to kill you and you shoot them first, isn't that self-defense? PLO supporter for ISIS terrorism against Israeli Jews is nothing new. March and ISIS terrorists carried out an attack at a shopping mall in Beersheba that killed 4 Israelis, including a rabbi who ran a soup kitchen who left 4 children behind. And you know, this is the stuff that gets me, that this woman stood behind and supported and praised this action. That I'm.
Wait, Paul, I gotta correct you. Said woman. How do you know she's a woman?
Well, you know what?
Is she defined
She at least doesn't hide herself behind a hijab or a.
I mean,
So,
do you know her preferred pronoun? I mean, come on. The most we can say about this person is it. Okay. Yeah, or thing.
well,
I mean, until they define themselves, that's all they are. It's just an it. But so.
oh, that's a good question. Now, can a Muslim female state what a woman is? That would be interesting, because in this country, the Muslim women are primarily Democrats, and if they don't define who they are, then is it possible for them to be guilty of the crime of lesbianism? Wow. I hadn't even thought of that. Thanks for that angle. All right.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, let's look at Quran 47:4. It says, so when you meet those who become infidels, so strike their necks, decapitating, until you have made a great slaughter among them. So firmly bind them. So let there either be free dismissals or for a ransom until the war is over. So you would and this is where people have to understand that holding people as captives and getting ransom is still legal under Islam. It's not something that's 7th century anymore. It's not something 16th century or 17th century. It's still happening today. And this goes on, but he would rather test. In this way, if Allah wills, he will take vengeance on them. And of course, Allah doesn't know, so he says that. But he would rather test some of you by the other. Again, because Allah doesn't know. And those who were killed for the sake of Allah, so he will not let their works go astray. Now, he has to say these things because he doesn't know what's going to happen. So here we have 8 killed in suspected jihadi attack in Burkina Faso. And I'll put the link in the chat room in just a second. This is a horrible attack. And this happened on the 28th. This is just 2 days ago. And yeah. XYZ, yes. Women are valued as half under Islam. It's again, this is, to me, that is a whole other issue of hatred. Islam hates women as far as I can see. I can't see where they value women at all. I don't see the woman being valued as anything but a baby maker. Other than that, I mean, they birth their guardians. And I have personally witnessed the child being the guardian. So and the child was 19 or 20. And all of a sudden, because the father was gone, he's now in charge. And something just happened. Okay, I've just got to figure out where that sound is coming from. Just a second. All right. Oh, the joy of things. Okay, so 8 killed in suspected jihadi attack in Burkina Faso. Here we go. 8 people in eastern Burkina Faso have been killed in an attack by suspected jihadis on a baptism party. A security source and a local resident said on Tuesday, terrorist attack in the village of Sandiaga in Quelpalago province left 8 civilians dead. Toll was confirmed by a local resident who said armed men burst into a baptism ceremony on Monday morning and opened fire. On Sunday, 6 people died and 2 were injured in 2 villages in the northern province of Bam when carts carrying women were hit by roadside bombs, another security source said. The landlocked Sahel state, one of the world's poorest countries, is in the grip of a nearly 7-year-old jihadi insurgency. Thousands of people have died and nearly 2 million have been driven out of their homes. And these attacks are on Christians. I mean, they're attacking on Sundays because what do Christians do? They're the ones leaving and going to their and going to places. And it's something to sadly to think about, that these are the attacks that are being done for the purpose of killing non-Muslims. All right. This next one I'll put into the chat room too. Now, this one you have to translate. This is another one that it's in Arabic. It's from Egypt. And I'll throw this into the chat. Here we go. And it's a little longer. Sorry. Sorry it's so long, but there we go. This one, when I read this, I had to stop and yeah. It says an attempt to slaughter a Coptic in the village of Sharona and Minya. This is Egypt. It was posted on June 15th. Coptic woman called Mona Wafdi in Marzouk, 35, in the village of Sharona Maghada district in Minya Governorate, was subjected to an attempt to slaughter her using a sharp tool used to cut grass. That should ring some bells for those of us who are older about how they used to cut grass here in the States. At the hands of a person called Qasim Fala Muhammad. The girl was transferred to the Sheikh Fadl Hospital and received treatment with 7 stitches in the neck. And we just read a verse about beheading. Where did that person get that idea? Could it be the Quran? One of the village's cops said the woman was on her way in the morning to the family farmland to do her work to help her family and her sick father. Qasim Muhammad was walking behind her without any introduction. He tried to strangle her with something, and then he took from her hand a stuffed machine which she had used in agriculture and tried to slaughter her with it. So he tried to kill her with a sickle. That's the best way I can describe it. Makari, the cousin of the victim, said that Qasim ran quickly and left her lying on the ground. Apparently he was not, cutting someone's neck is not something easily done. And thank God it is not easily done. But again, it's sick to think that this is happening. And again, this idea of cutting the neck, where did it come from? It came straight from Islam. It came straight from the Quran. It came straight from, this guy named Allah and his partner that we know of as Muhammad. So does Islam have a hatred of homosexuality? Is my next part. If we look at Islamic law in Umda al-Salik, which is Reliance of the Traveler, you can go to P17.0, sodomy and lesbianism. It says, in more than one place in the Holy Quran, Allah recounts to us the story of Lot's people and how he destroyed them for their wicked practice. There is consensus among both Muslims and the followers of all other religions that sodomy is an enormity. It is even viler and uglier than adultery. Well, let's get this straight. First of all, Lot's people, Lot only had his wife and his daughters. That was it. There was no people group to Lot. It was his wife and his daughters. They did not, I mean, it wasn't, he was that. That was it. It was just him, and he chose to live in the city of Sodom. So Islam gets this wrong as a whole, and then they condemn Lot along with all of Sodom. Like, yeah, so understand that. P17.2, Allah Most High says, do you approach the males of humanity, leaving the wives Allah has created for you? But you are a people who transgress. Again, this comes from the Quran, where they get these ideas. 26, chapter 26, 165 to 166. They're the ones citing these sources. I'm quoting them. Go on. P17.3, the prophet said, kill the one who sodomizes and the one who lets it be done to him. May Allah curse him who does what Lot's people did. Again, this is where they don't read the Bible. They have no clue. So their prophet got it wrong again. And then they come down to another time. They say lesbianism by women is adultery. The reason why they do not consider lesbianism homosexuality, because they define homosexuality as how do I put this? I'll just put it as vulgar as they state it. As they define homosexuality as putting the penis into the anus. That's how it's defined in Islam. So they do not allow and accept. They totally separate lesbianism from homosexuality for that reason. And yes, Muhammad was a, quote, switch hitter. You can read the hadiths and you can find this out. Even in their textbooks that they give to children for social studies in Saudi Arabia, this is a one that was seen for 2007, 2008, and I believe I have a link for this in a bit. This is what it says on page 76. Homosexuality. Homosexuality is one of the most disgusting sins and greatest crimes. God did not afflict any people with this before. He afflicted the folk of Lot. Wait a minute. Again, it gets the story wrong. He punished them as he punished no one else. Well, I will say Sodom and Gomorrah did get punished like no one else, but again, they got the person and they got the wrong names. It is a vile perversion that goes against sound nature. It is one of the most corrupting and hideous sins. Again, look at this source. It is from a Saudi Ministry of Education textbook for Islamic studies. This is, yeah. And if you continue reading in this is this next page. Homosexuality is forbidden. It is a great sin. The Quran and the majority of opinion of scholars confirm the prohibitions on it. The Quran states, we also sent Lot, he said to his people, do you commit lewdness such as no people in creation ever created before you? For you practice your lusts on men in preference to women. You are indeed a people transgressing beyond bounds. The funny thing here is they kind of get it right, but they don't understand they got it right. It says we sent Lot. Okay. Lot's supposed to tell, if Lot tells them, that means he's not of them, but they condemn this all as being his people. God in the Most High said about his prophet Lot was not a prophet. Again, they get it wrong. We give judgment and knowledge. We saved him from the town which practiced abominations. Truly, they were a people given to evil and a rebellious people. That's chapter 21, verse 74. Again, this is from a Saudi Arabia textbook. Muslims have been unanimous in prohibiting the practice punishment. Again, a children's textbook. This would probably be used in a high school level. The punishment for homosexuality is death. But the active and passive participants are to be killed. Both the active and passive participants are to be killed, whether or not they have previously had sexual intercourse in the context of a lawful marriage. The Quran and the unanimous opinion of the Prophet's companions show this. what does it mean when you're putting stuff like this in front of children? Isn't that Islam preaching hate? Anybody disagree? Or thoughts?
It is. When you teach the kids to hate other people based on their religious preferences, it is hate. It is hate speech. It's hateful. It's what Muhammad did.
And the next thing I have to share is a Canadian imam. His name is Yunus Cathadra. And I do some work with Eric Brazeau, and I like that he keeps me informed on stuff, but I caught this one. This came out on Memory. I think it came out today. I was just finishing up. I always look at Memory before I finish putting my show together, and I saw this, and I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, wait, this guy, he comes out and he's talking about homosexuality. This couldn't have been any more direct, any more vile than it is. And I'm saying this because I want you to think about, if you live in this country or in Canada, you pride yourself in a lot of things. One of those generally is freedoms and the importance of being able to express ideas. But I actually believe, after listening to this man could be arrested for inciting violence. So here we go.
Look to the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of what these people did, and they engaged in homosexual acts, in sodomy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deemed this to be a fahisha, an abomination, an immorality, an indecency, a shameful deed. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to it as. And we learn from the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them with a severe punishment. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الكفرة والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين وأهلك الزنادقة والملحدين اللهم عليك باليهود الغاصبين اللهم عليك باليهود المجرمين اللهم عليك باليهود الذين اعتدوا على بيتك المسجد الأقصى اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك اللهم رد كيدهم في نحورهم اللهم زلزل الأرض من تحت أقدامهم اللهم أقر أعيننا بإعادة المسجد الأقصى إلى حوزة الإسلام والمسلمين.
I personally see that as a way, this guy, if any violence happens as a result, I think he should be arrested as inciting violence. Any Jew hatred in his area, any anti-Semitic acts, I think he should be arrested. Throw the key away. Maybe deported because he's not originally from Canada. I think he should be charged. But will they do it? It's Canada with liberal politics. Anybody else have any thoughts or open mic? All right. Go back to the next one I have on this. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I just sat back down. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just got back. I missed your spot there. Sorry.
Okay, so Yunus Cathadra, I'm going to tell people you definitely want to go to memory.org, view that. It It's so inflammatory. It is so. If you have someone who is willing to tell people to go and attack Jews, and then something happens, yeah, you have to sit there and wonder, can this guy be put in jail? I mean, they're trying to put people in jail for something that never happened on January 6th here in the United States. They have put several people. What did they do? They walked into the Capitol building. They took pictures. Some of them, I will state, some did break some things. There's a guy who took pictures of himself sitting in Nancy Pelosi's chair. Okay. Should he be in jail for over a year for taking pictures of himself sitting with his feet up on her desk? No. Somebody came into your business, put their feet up on your desk and took pictures. Should they be in jail for a year or more? And the answer should be no. But that is what's currently happening. And yeah.
Well, I agree with that 100%. You know, what they did with these. Okay, let's just make sure that we understand the bottom line here. These people did in fact enter into the Capitol building during a Senate hearing where they were voting on voting on whether or not they accept the Electoral College votes, and they interrupted that. They did it. They entered illegally. They disrupted it. A guy dressed up like Chewbacca comes into the Senate chambers and says, "Hey, what's up?" And the whole nation freaks out. They didn't burn anything to the ground. As a matter of fact, the only person who was shot and killed was an unarmed woman who was about 5'4", and she's shot by a Capitol police officer. Or he wasn't even a Capitol police officer. I can't even remember who the heck he was.
He was a DC cop who was hiding behind the corner of he could barely be seen. He stepped forward out of hiding to fire that weapon.
He shoots her in the throat. Now, and he doesn't even get charged. There wasn't even my understanding was there wasn't even an investigation worth a snot into what happened. And then you're going to charge all these people with I don't even know how to describe it. Normally what would happen if something like this happened, people would be ticketed. You would get a ticket for trespassing is what you would get.
In fact, that's what just happened. Apparently if you're a Democrat and you're out there to you're from a Democratic liberal show and you can get a ticket for trespassing.
Is that what those guys were charged? Was that what they got? They got
criminal. It was a trespassing charge. And
shut down the Arizona State House. Nothing happens to those people. You burn entire cities to the ground. You're not even charged with crimes, and then they're doing this. And then here's what the sick part of it is that they expect us to be quiet about it.
Yeah.
Shut up, you bigot. Shut up, you hater. Shut up, you racist. How dare you say that, that's not a crime. We're not saying it wasn't a crime, but what we are saying is that you're blowing this way out of proportion to try to provide some type of cover for that dementia-ridden idiot sitting in the White House.
And speaking of that, I did want to find a way to get this into the show. And if anybody has seen the Hutchinson interview, oh my gosh. I sat there and I listened and I just about broke out into tears laughing.
Which interview would you say, Paul?
The Hutchinson interview, where this aide of an aide, basically, low-level aide, heard. If you listen to her, everything is hearsay. She doesn't have any grounds to do any testifying. It's all hearsay. Where have we heard hearsay before? Could we call that the Russia story, the Russia collusion story? Yeah.
Oh, wait. Hold on a second, guys. I got breaking news on this. Remember, you heard it here first. Okay? Donald Trump, after he failed to take over the limousine coup, he rushed to Air Force One and tried to wrestle Air Force One away from the Secret Service in an attempt to fly over the Capitol, skywriting, "I won, bitches." Okay, but that was failed. When I heard it in a passing by somewhere, and I have more credibility than the person that just testified. So if you're going to believe the other story, you got to believe that story. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
So she got the wrong. The funniest thing is she got the wrong vehicle. She said he was in the Beast, and if he was in the Beast, there's no way he can reach that far forward and take over the steering wheel. They're saying he grabbed someone by the neck. The Secret Service has offered to testify against this person's testimony, and they never. I mean, when you're going to, you have the powers of Congress. You can check everybody's testimony before you let them get on, on the stage. And the Secret Service has come forward and saying not any one of them has been asked to verify any of the story, which kind of blows my mind.
If you would compare this January 6th circus to Watergate, and I mean, think about what Watergate was. Watergate was nothing more than just a break into the Democratic headquarters there in D.C. by some low-level morons just looking to dig up dirt on whoever. What was Nixon running against? Agnew that year, or whoever? I can't remember who he was running against. But the crime was the cover-up and trying to get the FBI. Okay, and they called these people in, and they had witnesses, and they would actually have the ability to have people from the opposite party counter. What do they call that? Counter direct counter. You know what I'm saying? Where you would you would
counterintelligence response.
They would counter. They would be able to counter the questions that they would ask. You would have some type of opposition here. You have 3 Republicans sitting on this
cross-examine.
There you go, cross-examine. You have 3 Republicans sitting on this committee. Liz Cheney, who hates Trump because she's no longer going to be a congresswoman come November. You have Adam Kinzinger, what's his name, Kinzinger or whatever the heck his name is.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I can never get it right myself.
The guy is a sissy.
Yeah,
and he has no business being a congressman. And then I don't even know who else they have on there, but all 3 of these chumps are nothing but about lapdogs for the Democrats. And the only reason why they're a bunch of lapdogs is because they hate Trump. This whole committee has nothing to do with arriving at what happened and who was responsible on January 6th. And it is everything to do with bringing the 3rd impeachment against Trump. They do not want this guy to run for president again, and they want to do everything they can to.
It's really humorous because you can't impeach somebody who's out of office. So what is the real purpose of this? I mean, I can't.
And that's why Roberts didn't show up for the 2nd impeachment. He's just, what are you crazy? You can't impeach him. He's no longer the president. You guys are
They wanted you in charge with the felony, so therefore you can't run. I mean, it's that simple. Whether they will succeed or not, I don't know. They probably will with Garland and.
What did you say? What did you say? They charged him with a felony? What?
Yeah. You can't run for president if you're charged if you've been charged and convicted of a felony.
And who's he going to be convicted by?
Who cares? Dude, Russia. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. They're just making it up, dude. Come on, dude. But I want to get back to the story that this woman told. To be honest with you, in my opinion, I'm like, that makes Trump a badass, dude. Oh yeah, he was trying to lead his folks, but he was outgunned, outmanned by the Secret Service, had to be taken down. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I mean, just to even tell the story, yeah, Trump jumps all bad in the Beast, wrestles with the Secret Service, says, these are my people, I'm going to go lead them to the you know what I mean? And then he was overpowered and had to be subdued. You know? I mean, seriously, 70-year-old man, you know? I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, it's like, dude, if Trump did half the things they falsely accused him of, they should be following him like he is a god. Because that is, in fact, what he was, a demigod. Because, seriously, if he did half the things that they accused him of done and got away with it and keeps getting away with it, do you see what I'm saying? They're just building up his rep, man. And I for one, just to let you know, I hope he doesn't run because we can't go through more of that, even though, you know what I'm saying? I'm firmly behind DeSantis. Definitely 100% if he does run. Yeah, that's just my opinion.
Again, if you want a good laugh, go look at Hutchinson's interview, or I would say her moments of fame, and make sure you look at the hug given to her by the prosecutor.
Oh, I hate that vile witch, man. I really hate her.
Too.
I hate her. I hate her father. I hate her whole family. I'm just saying. I'm not fans of theirs.
Something's seriously wrong when your prosecutor gives a hug to someone who's testifying.
But here's another funny thing on that. If you ever listen to the Amber Heard testimony,
yes,
I happen to, and you listen to her, they're the same testimony. Just, I mean, seriously, the same rehearsed, the same kind of dramatic flair on certain details. I came in and I saw ketchup on the wall. I was cleaning up the tablecloth and I saw ketchup on the wall. Think about that, ketchup, the whole visual, red, streaking like blood.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Who was pointing something similar? I think it might have been Waters, or I've seen about 3 different reviews of her testimony, and I sat there and laughed. They're pointing out, the emphasis is in her statement, and it's just she had to be taught how to do this, is what it came down to.
Yeah, of course, they all agree with me, obviously. But no, seriously, I listened to her testimony on the train. I wasn't even watching her, and I didn't even know I was listening to it because it just cut over from one YouTube channel to another. You know what I mean? I was listening to something else, and you're playing. I'm like, am I listening to Amber Heard? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the same cadence, the same response, the same, like I said, the attention to small, little, insignificant details to bring them out. And I mean, no, seriously, it was, yeah, dude. No, here's another thing. I don't know if you guys discussed this. They interviewed her 4 times before all this, right?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so all of a sudden we're shutting down everything for a super secret surprise hearing. Oh, we're gonna get all this great information. Oh my God, this is a nail in the coffin. Right, whatever. And they were totally blown. But you know what? Here's the sad part, dude. People like my parents, because that's all they watch is MSNBC. Okay, they're still gonna believe this crap, no matter what.
Well,
you know
actually,
what I mean?
I was working the elections during this on Tuesday, and there was a guy there who totally believed everything that was being said, and I was like, "Are you serious? Can you actually trust an organization that sat there and lied to you about Russiagate?" I mean,
how many times are they gonna lie to you? How many times?
Yeah,
that's what. My dad, he's pretty much Biden brain. Yeah, he's got Biden brain syndrome. But I tell my mom, my mom's kind of coming around. But I tell my mom, how many times are they gonna lie to you? Do you still believe Russia? Oh, I never believe that. I'm like, you preached it for like 3 years. Now all of a sudden you don't believe it? I mean, seriously, you're not getting as demented as dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, anyway. Oh, I got to enroll to be an election judge for November because we ain't gonna let no cheating happen in my district.
I'm in New York State. We have to have 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats present at every election district. So that's what I just finished on. I just did for the primary here, and I'll be doing that in November. So,
well, when I do it, I'm going to reject anybody, okay, who I think is a liberal. I'm just like, no, you can't. Well, you come here with purple hair, nose ring, and fucking. No, sorry. You come here with purple. No, you ain't going. Sorry, sister. I don't think that's signature match.
You know what kills me is New York State. The way the election inspector books are written, there's an implication that they're moving towards voter ID. In fact, in fact, New York State, Libland, New York State, now has the ability to scan your driver's license to find out if you are who you are. So, and that's the way it's set up all across New York State. I'm happy about this. It's a statement. It's a step towards. Yeah, but it just kind of makes you think. I did not expect that. When I went through the training, I was like, whoa. I mean, it looks like the next step is for law to actually be passed. So I was kind of surprised. Let's go back just for a second to the topic of Islam and hate, and we can come back to this. I just want to finish this topic up that I have. All right. And, I don't normally go to something like Pink News, but I saw this and like the topic. This actually came from Robert Spencer's Jihad Watch site, or it's now called robertspencer.org. Beirut Pride billboard vandalized as ministers order security forces to crush LGBTQ. How do you know what initials to add? I can't figure that one out. All right. And, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. Islam hates homosexuals. It just does. And that is a sad, sorry truth. So here we go. And let's put that. Okay. I'm just waiting for this to pop up. Okay. It's on Saturday, June 25th, Beirut Pride said within hours of its blooming billboard, flowering thugs tore down some of the thousands of flowers forming the LGBTQ pride flag. They said, we raised a billboard on the streets of Beirut to create awareness. Really, did you think they would not react in an Islamic community? I mean, did you seriously think they would not? Did you not know that in your community this is illegal? Oh my gosh!
You know what? Let me just comment on that. This stuff, okay, that actually was paid for by the United States government. That billboard. If you look at all of our foreign spending bills, they all have, $5 million here to promote this alphabet soup. Another, $5 million here to promote this. Do you know why a lot of these countries have all of a sudden, like Ireland and a bunch of Central American countries have all of a sudden adopted pro-choice political sciences, in other words, legalizing abortion? It's because in our foreign aid packages to them, we actually reserve $5-10 million here, whatever there, for advertisement, for market study groups, for all this sort of stuff to promote this stuff, to get into their colleges, to get into their grocery stores. You know what I mean? So yeah, so we're promoting this. This is our export of our cultural values going there. But I'm going to comment on some. I just want to point that out. But go ahead, continue on. I'm sorry to madden your show. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is just. And then we have this Dr. Hurd guy. This came back from the 2014. I saw this and I thought this was of value too. And I'll throw this link in the chat room. Some of these things I just sit there and like, wait, yeah. I mean, so let me throw this one in the chat room. Let's see here. I thought this was, again, relevant. It's back from 2014, but it's still relevant. It says pro-Islam, anti-gay violence. Where's the outrage? Now, this is why I thought was incredibly important. A man accused of murdering 4 people, including a 19-year-old Brendan Tevlin of Livingston, New Jersey, said he's retaliating against the U.S. for action in the Middle East. According to court documents from Seattle, where his 2 previous murders occurred, Ali Muhammad Brown was allegedly on a bloody crusade for 2 months. Court documents show Brown says his mission is vengeance on the United States' involvement in the Middle East. All of these lies are taken every single day by America, by his government, he says. So a life for a life. The 2 men Brown killed in Seattle earlier in this summer, again, 2014, before being arrested for another murder in New Jersey just last week, again, 2014, were gay. And this last was a couple returning from a gay club. And he credits Pamela Geller, who wonders where the gay and lesbian advocacy groups are on the issue. Again, she wrote on July 3rd of 2014, Seattle has a problem. They won't run our ads highlighting Muslim oppression of gays, despite this savage reality. If you recall, a devout Muslim set fire to a packed Seattle gay bar during a New York's celebration shortly after midnight on January 1st. Seattle's largest and longest running gay nightclub was doused in gasoline instead of fire by Musab Masari. He was arrested on his way to the airport. I mean, where is the angst? Where is the anger? And that's what I thought was important about this article. Why is that angst, that anger being hidden? Because it negates the narrative, is what I would say. That Islam is, quote, peaceful. And in Canada, there is an actual moderate Islamic person. I guess she is trying to teach people that Islam and homosexuality get along. And what's her name? And I'll say Eric Brazeau has something coming out. I think it'll be this fall that we need to watch for on this particular topic. Outstanding work on this topic by him. And
okay, let me just interject in here really quickly on this topic, on this specific topic. You guys need to read. Go Google it. It's in the Atlantic Monthly Journal. It is called "The Kingdom in the Closet." It's a 2007 article. As someone who has worked in the oil and gas industry, I can testify that this is true. Okay? Basically, it talks about how, well, homosexuality is very prevalent in the Saudi Arabia, in the Magical Kingdom. Where, as a matter of fact, it's not uncommon to see two men or women walk down the street holding hands, kissing, or even kissing in, their coffee bars, blah, blah. The thing about it, they all have gay lovers, okay, when they're in high school, because they're all segregated, okay, you know what I mean? And because, it is. It's like 90% gay. As a matter of fact, one of my coworkers at the time when I worked in the oil and gas industry, he actually told me, because he was going to Saudi Arabia, he was all happy. I'm like, why are you happy? He's like, what are you talking about? Where else can I walk down with, Billy in my arms and kissing in the street? But now here's the funny thing. If that was a man kissing his wife, he would be beaten. Okay? He would, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? So they take away they suppress the natural, and the unnatural comes along. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, go read it. It's an interesting read, dude. It's called The Closet in the Kingdom. It's like one big male and female prison. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I have another article I thought was interesting. And I'm just gonna share this screen for this one. I like this news source, but I don't like their word choice. So please understand what I mean by word choice. They will use the term Islamist. I don't agree that there is such a thing as Islamist, which basically that means they separate Islam into different political. They allow it to be political and not political. And that's where I disagree with the term. So this term, again, I do not agree with it. I stand with Usama on this. And when I started to use it, I was using it because I was working in education, and I thought maybe I'd have to use this term to survive. So this is actually Focus on Western Islamism is Daniel Pipe's Middle East Forum organization. So that's why they use the term Islamist. It says Islamists have a lobby. White supremacists do not. Guess which the feds are targeting? And I thought this was great. It's by J.M. Phillips, came out just on the 27th. If the Biden administration is to be believed, the American people need to worry about the threat of terror attacks perpetrated by white supremacists, but can't ignore the threat of Islamic violence perpetrated by U.S. citizens. That's exactly what the White House did in a comprehensive report about domestic terrorism issued on June 15th. Guess what? Eric, myself, and everybody else that I know of has talked about this before this article got written. So, yeah. They released some fanfare. The text makes repeated references to white supremacists, militias. I find this humorous that they're going to. I mean, I've been talking about this kind of topic for quite a while, that they've been doing this. It just blows my mind that it made the news. So, and on top of that, this week, in fact, just the other day, I think was it yesterday or the day before, Bare Naked Islam covered the same topic that my whole show was about last week. I thought that was kind of, I don't know if anybody saw that. It just came out. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, it might have been Tuesday. I sat there and laughed. Okay, we did a whole show on the topic, and their article didn't even touch on the details that we covered. I mean, that the Islamophobia bill, and I sit there and laugh because look, we're getting this stuff out. And maybe I don't know. Maybe maybe the person who's watching, one of the people watching it works for Bare Naked Islam. I don't know. I'm happy that somebody's getting the information out, but I think the details are very, very important. That's why we do what we do. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for actually paying attention. Let's see. Let's see. One more here. I did have an interesting article from France. Now, this is an article I would have shared Saturday night with Usama, but life didn't go the way I wanted to go for sharing this. And this is an interesting article because a person gets knifed. And this is a cop, I believe, that gets knifed. I'll just double check the article. And that should be going up. Here we go. Pull this article back up and I can share it. This is, I tend to be a little bit surprised when I find something. And again, if you're using translate.google, that's the way to do this. You type it in, translate.google, you put the article in, and eventually if you put enough articles that are in French, it'll automatically translate for you. That's what it does for me. It says, I don't know how you pronounce it, AIX, Ix, an individual armed with a knife arrested not far from Vasserly Foundation. And this came out the 21st. And let me just get to this. And come back to, I have to refresh. Okay. It was around 8:30 p.m. last Wednesday when two national police officers arrested an individual armed with a knife near the Vasserly Foundation. A 51-year-old man of no fixed address, okay, so now we're talking migrant, is known to the police for multiple common law offenses and was an alcoholic. Oh, even though he appeared threatening to the two law enforcement officers, shouting Allah Akbar as they came out of a bush, they eventually reasoned with him and overpowered him. His identity was confronted with the file of the specialized services. Oh, so the people in specialized services we're talking about the anti-terror groups, okay? After prolonged custody, he was brought for prosecution. So they caught this guy with a knife, and and will they consider this terrorism? And the sad truth is, it's in France, got brought before them. They're going to say he's just mentally ill. And this is the sad stuff we keep seeing throughout Europe. Oh, well, he's Asian. They don't say he's from Pakistan. They don't say he's from Iran or Iraq, or he's Asian. And they don't say he's Muslim. They say he's mentally ill. And
it's a synonymous term.
And if they tell that, I always laugh when I look at some of these countries, they won't put the name in because it would tell that he's Muslim or she's Muslim. And, you see this over and over again in all these articles from Europe. In Germany, I think in particular, they don't usually show the names, but they definitely did not in this case. But what did he say? Allah Akbar. Are you telling me a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or somebody else is going to say that? Nah, not going to happen. This is the scary stuff. Islam hates us, and that's what it comes down to. And in the United States, we have people who want to stand by them. And that's where we start to see the danger. We call this the red-green axis. The red being the commies, and they are the Democrats today. The Democrats are basically, you cannot say you're a Democrat without agreeing with communist principles. You are right now, if you are a Democrat, you agree with the killing of children after they're born. Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, I think it's up till 9 months after they're born. Is that correct? Anybody want to check me on that one?
I'm not sure if it's after the majority of the Democrats would probably say that would be wrong. But when the problem begins when you start caucusing with the Democratic Party. If you support and it all comes down to the Senate, because the Senate is the body that confirms the judges to either the lower courts, the district courts, the Supreme Court, or whatever. And if you caucus with the Democrat senator from your state, that is that person will then show allegiance to what you just said, Paul, a party whose it's not your dad's Democratic Party or your grandpa's Democratic Party anymore. This is a far left, God-hating, human-hating death cult that wants to, number one, kill the unborn. If you want to have an abortion, that's killing an unborn child. And the extreme part of it wants to have the ability to kill children after they have been born. So if you're going to caucus with that party, you are caucusing with a part of that party whose agenda, a outspoken, with a strong voice part of that party that wants to do exactly what you said. So when we start, we say, oh, you're being a bunch of extremists. You're categorizing them in the most extreme manner. No, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to illustrate how if you support that party, which you're essentially doing, even if you're pro-life, and you say I'm a pro-life Democrat, okay, that's fine. You're a pro-life Democrat. You're not, but even if you say that, what you're doing is you're supporting those people who are not. You are supporting those people who are pro-death. Those are the ones that want to have abortion on demand all the way up to birth and even after in perpetuity. So to say that we're being extreme in categorizing this is really not that accurate, because when you start getting down to the brass knuckles of it and the mechanics of all of this, you're absolutely spot on.
And I sit there and kind of amazed. I sit there and I keep going back to the days where Hillary Clinton was interviewed, and it was said to her, "What's the difference between a socialist and a Democrat?" And she couldn't give the answer. There's other people who've been asked, "What's the difference between a communist and a Democrat?" And these are people who are currently serving in political office in the federal government, and they can't answer these questions. So we run into serious issues when they don't see a difference. And XYZ, you're right. Ecumenical and interfaith fools. I spent time as a teenager and found this is pretty bad. As a teenager, I saw the difficulties and errors in that. If I could do that as a teenager, what does that say? We have to be careful. What it comes down to is we have to be careful. What do I mean by being careful? We have to be the watchman. And that's what we have to do today. As Christians today, you have to be the ones willing to stand up and say this is right or this is wrong. You have to be the ones who do that, because what's happening is the messaging that is being done by the Democratic Party through all the media, which you can see the words repeated over and over again. And if you want to have a good laugh, and this is one of the reasons why I recommend MRC.org, Media Research Center. You can see videos where you can see the messaging repeated word for word over and over and over again. It's just like we were talking about the January 6th special surprise guest. They're going to have a special interview. Well, you can see all the words that were repeated by all the major news outlets. And, they were repeating this message over and over again. And then the story comes out, this was all planned. That this was not anything special. It wasn't a surprise. In fact, they didn't allow any testimony to verify, corroborate, or debunk her, which is bad. And on top of that, they didn't tell anyone it was hearsay, even though she admitted it over and over and over and over again, using the same words. I think it was Jesse Waters, or I think he's the one who played that back and forth. I have to go back. I give him a lot of credit because he had some fun with that. We have to, as Christians, we have that duty. We can't sit back. We can't allow things to happen without saying things. And I think that's where we run into trouble today. If you are not a Christian and you are out there trying to stand up and say this is wrong, I sympathize with you. I think you have to fight. We actually, what does fight mean? You have to stand up. I'm not saying grab a gun. I'm saying grab your keyboard. Do something. Go outside. Tell others what's true. Because you know what's happening? We have too many people plugged into CNN, too many people plugged into MSNBC, which I think they have the lowest rating right now. MSNBC, I think, is going to go out of business in the near future because I don't think they can even. I think they're rating a portion of what. If anybody's actually watching MSNBC, I'm shocked. But we all seem to know people who listen to this. I met one person on Tuesday who falls into all of these things, swallows everything they're being told, and doesn't question it. When I went to school in the 80s, high school, I graduated in 1982. My teachers were always saying, you have to do your own research. All right. And we go to college. You have to do your own research. And you go to grad school. You have to do your own research. You know what the kids aren't doing today? Doing their own research. And Eric and I can both testify to that because we don't give them research project anymore because they cheat. They steal. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Cut and paste. It's so easy. And then when you catch them and you bust them, you ask, if you get a paper and you do, what I would always do is I would go in and pick a 5-syllable word. What does this word mean? And if they couldn't tell you what it means, right away it was plagiarized. And all you have to do is just cut and paste just a little bit of it and then put it into a Google, and it'll bring the paper up from what they cut and pasted from. So yeah, when you start talking about doing a research paper anymore, it's almost non-existent, especially if you have a school that doesn't enforce plagiarism standards, plagiarism rules. And you don't have the backing of the administration to do that. So when I was teaching, I would just say, the heck with it. I don't even do that anymore.
And this is the sad state that we are in this country. When our children I say this is as a whole throughout the country. It's not just public schools. It's private schools. It's charter schools. People are afraid to enforce what we would call right and wrong, basic morality. And if we don't fight for the basic morality of little things, this is why you see the murder rate skyrocketing in certain cities, like my own. I'm in Rochester, New York. You hear about Rochester, New York now as a skyrocketing murder capital. Why? Because the little things, even the comments, even in a classroom where students are allowed to use racist terms, but you'll fire the teacher if they use those terms. It doesn't make sense. So the kids have no accountability, but the student can claim that the teacher said something and try and get him fired. And yeah, that's the stuff that we're dealing with as educators today.
Let me just tell you a quick story about a lesson that I taught a number of years ago about the invention of the cotton gin. And the reason the cotton gin, if your audience doesn't know, the cotton gin was this invention in, 1793, 1794, Eli Whitney, where it would pull the fibers from cotton away from the seeds, and the seeds would fall off. It's kind of like a comb. It would just turn and pull the fibers to fiber. Okay, so what it did was it turned the production of the slave. It increased the productivity of the slaves. They went from being able to process 1 pound of cotton a day to 50 pounds of cotton a day, which is a huge increase in productivity. So in order to demonstrate the difficulty in trying to hand clean cotton, I passed cotton balls out to each row in the class, and I had the students pull the fibers off of the seeds. so they would understand how difficult of a process that is. I got an email from a mama saying, "How dare you teach my baby how to pick cotton in your class? We will have, I want your lesson plans." And she courtesy copied the administrators in the school, trying to create this big stink that I'm teaching her poor black little girl how to pick cotton because she's black. And this is the initial, the point I'm trying to make here, this is the initial reaction that you get from parents. They're always questioning the motivations of the teacher instead of actually analyzing what the lesson was about, what the purpose of the lesson, what the standard that you were covering. And these types of actions are pushing people out of the classroom, pushing good teachers out of the classroom, because they had the administrator is more afraid of trying to stand up to the parents than they are to defend their teachers. And it's turned it into a circus.
Exactly.
Public schools.
It's one of the reasons why I'm done. I retired, and I can enjoy being a substitute teacher. XYZ said it. All major democratically controlled cities are, they're controlled by Democrats. I think unless there was a news article. I'm going to encourage people to go watch Project Veritas's video on a candidate running for, I think it was Congress or a Senate. And she said some very incredibly bad things. And I'm not going to play that because her word choice is highly inappropriate for anything we would call Christian. But she was basically saying we need to get people from the Democratic Party to work within the Republican Party and run as Republican candidates. And she wanted drug money to fund her candidacy. She got caught. She refused to admit it. And then after several news stations caught it, the fact that they're trying to run people as Republicans. Here's what I'll say about it. I live in Libland, New York State. We have plenty of Democrats running as Republicans. We have plenty. In the primary, we had plenty. I did not even pay attention to who won here for the gubernatorial candidate, but we had only one running who was a true, what I would call a Republican, a true, not a namby-pamby, only one. And that says something. We have to be careful. When people say again, where do people stand as Christians, as voters who are American? You have to find out for yourself. Be the informed voter, be the informed Christian, and then share that information out. The reason why I know some of these things is because I belong to a local conservative group, and we hold meetings and we invite candidates, and we try to keep each other informed. My suggestion: find a local conservative group in your area. Get involved. All that may mean is, I know my group, we meet maybe once a month, and we share information with each other. Some of us became specialists. I'm one of them. We had people become the best on Common Core. In fact, they teach the whole county on things like that. So in my county, we're one of the biggest counties in the area, and they actually have gone and taught other counties the stuff on the Common Core. And because of our fight together, we're making a stand, and we're making a difference. It's important. We cannot stop. This is what I'm getting at. You cannot stop as Christians. You cannot stop as patriots getting this truth out, because when you do, we all lose. Let's say thank you, everybody, for being here. God bless you all. Anybody have last comments?
Well, I have one last comment. If you haven't watched Unplanned and you're a Democrat, please find the movie and watch it. It'll show you what abortion's really about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Darcy.
That is great suggestion. That's where that wasn't she like a director of one of the Planned Parenthood centers?
Yes.
And she was forced to go in and actually watch one of these things, and it just freaked her out. So the reality of it is much different than the politics that surround it. And that movie illustrates that perfectly. And it's based on a true story.
I worked at a place called Crisis Pregnancy Center, helping do a few things, and had to watch a few videos and show a few videos to young pregnant women who came in. And yeah, everything you're told about abortion, if you think it's acceptable, once you see the reality, if you're not grossed out and you don't want to throw up something, you've got some serious mental health issues, is what I'll say. And that's the only reason I can find for accepting this barbarism as mental health issues. But again, I just can't understand it.
My last words are always, let's go, Brandon. Always. Let's go, Brandon, quickly.
Yes, let's have Mr. Dementia Amendment 25, and then quickly follow with an Amendment 25 for the woman who holds the office who didn't exactly earn it. Let me put it that way.
Well, my position is changing on that. I used to be like, okay, suffer us Biden for the next 4 years or 2 years now, whatever it is. Because whatever comes up, I'm sorry, I'm winded. I just walked down all the way down a train track, had to walk all the way back because my train's on a different track. Anyway, because whatever comes after him, Kamala, is worse. But now I'm thinking, seriously, maybe she would be an improvement. Okay? You know what I mean? I'm sorry, this is horrible.
I think the difference would be you have someone everybody puts up as a figurehead and people want to believe, but when you got her, nobody's going to believe. Not even the Democrats believe her.
Well, at least she's not going to have a cue card telling her, walk into this room, greet people, be nice. And then this person walks in, greet this person. They ask a few questions. Sit down. You will sit down. And then you will ask this person a question. Oh, by the way, that person is going to be joining the meeting virtually. And then after that, you say a few things, and then you leave. At least she doesn't have that. You know?
Well, you won't need those instructions, at least. Well, God bless everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll have to have you back. Come on back next week. God bless. All right.